Hello and welcome back to our latest episode of West Coast XC. I am your host, Ken Martinez. If you happen to be watching us right now, could you please click on the subscribe button? That would be fantastic. If you're listening on Apple Podcast or Spotify, please follow us. Thank you. So for the last few weeks, I've had so much fun. I'm a big cross country and track nerd, especially when it comes to high school athletes. And we have been talking with three different experts of their states. We talked to Albert Kawana in California, and then we talked to Keenan Gray of Washington. And in this episode, we talked to Dave Frank of Mountainside High School. He coached for a long time at Central Catholic too, and then he also coached at St. Francis in California. He knows his California stuff pretty well too, and was a fantastic runner at Gladstone High School in the late 70s, early 80s. And he's very involved with the high school teams here. You know, when I coached at Aloha, I'd always get an email from Dave asking if anybody was interested in doing like a post-season race or an email before track season for a preseason race. So he's always looking out for high school athletes, and he knows his stuff. He's been a runner since his early teens, and you'll see on this episode, he goes in pretty deep of the top Oregon athletes, high school athletes that go on the Mount Rushmore, aka the Mount Hood of best high school athletes. We go on some tangents here because, I grew up in California and I haven't been there in a long time. So it was, I could, go with Albert a little bit with the California episode. Some of the athletes that he talked about, I actually either ran with, against, or coached briefly in California. And then Washington, I just watched from the other side of the Columbia River here in Portland. But with Oregon, I've been here for quite a bit of time, and have seen some of these athletes run in high school, and have met some of the other athletes who later became coaches or prominent people in the sport. And I've gotten to know some of the athletes that either almost made the Mount Hood or made the Mount Hood. So if you are a fan of Oregon, you're going to love it. If you're not so much a fan of Oregon, I think you'll love it too. It's super interesting. A lot of these athletes went on to do big things collegiately and even professionally, so you'll be familiar with many of these names. And so without further ado, let's listen to Dave as he figures out who makes the Mount Hood of high school athletes. Well, we want to welcome our guest, Dave Frank. Hey, Dave.
Hello, Ken. How are you, man?
Good. Dave's a longtime coach in Oregon for, I want to say, over 20 years here in Oregon. Does that seem right?
20, this is my 26th year in Oregon. Yep.
And coached also in California for maybe, I'm going to say 10 or 12 years.
10 years at St. Francis High School in Mountain View, California.
And is currently the head coach at Mountainside High School, the Mavericks. I'm going to say it's like maybe 2 miles from this place where I'm broadcasting, just over the hill. And
it's
also
a little further from my place, Ken.
Yeah, it's pretty close for me. I am too far. And I also want to say that Dave's got some deep roots in Oregon because he is a multi-state champion for the Gladstone Gladiators.
5 times, man.
Dang, 5 times. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
I did, by the way, I know people I'm sure know that we're going to talk about Mount Rushmore. I did not consider myself for the Mount Rushmore. I want to make sure that's clear.
Well, 5 championships is pretty impressive. That's pretty good. That's really good. So we're going to talk about the Mount Rushmore. As you know, Mount Rushmore is located in South Dakota. We might just preface this as Mount Hood. I didn't Google it. It could be the tallest mountain in Oregon.
Oh, I don't know. It might be. It's it's funny though. We're calling it the Mount Hood because the league that I coached in for all those years was the Mount Hood Conference. And when you sent me an email saying, "Hey, give me your top 4 Mount Hood," I was like, the top 4 Mount Hood Conference kids of all time. I don't know. I got to think about that one. But yeah, I like the whole state better. So anyway.
Yeah. So there's Mount McLaughlin. There's Mount Jefferson. All kinds of mountains here. But I drive. I was at Aloha for thousands of years, and I would come down Bainey Road, and you see Mount Hood. It's just an incredible
It's
sight.
it's one of the coolest things when you're driving east and when it's clear, it's really awesome to see Mount Hood out there.
It's
So yeah,
beautiful.
I'm with you, man.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask about your criteria. Are you focusing on just their high school exploits, or do you take in the whole career?
I find that to be a difficult question, and I think that I don't think it has to be the same for every person. Because like I think there are some I can tell you that one of the people I have on my list uh, didn't do a ton after high school, but was so dominant in high school, I felt like I had no choice but to put her on there, right?
Okay.
Whereas others, it's like, wow, they wanted to do this, they went to do this, they went to do this. So I think it's sort of a combination. I think if you, I don't know, I guess you maybe we should define it one way or the other, but I think everybody's version might be different in how they look at it. So yeah, some of mine are going to be because they did amazing stuff afterwards, and some are going to be because they were just dominant in high school. So here we go, huh?
Here we go. I'm going to talk about a past recording we did with the state of Washington, and we talked about Spokane, the athletes from Spokane, and we have something here. The University of Oregon has a big tradition, and the thing that Oregon recruits internationally and nationally, but it's amazing how many of these amazing Ducks are from Oregon. So and they may be on your list here. We'll see what happens.
Well, but I think what's to me what's interesting is that now there are a lot of foreign athletes at Oregon, and going back years and years ago, they had the Norwegians, they had the Kavalheims, right? Men, but they haven't. Oregon has not always been just a really big international destination. There and for many years the best men and women that ran at Oregon were Oregon kids. And not certainly not all of them, but a lot of them, and a few of the ones I chose are kids that went to Oregon. They grew up in Oregon and ran for Oregon, and I didn't go to Oregon, but I still appreciate that that particular path. So pretty cool.
Well, let's start off with the girls, and we're going to talk about. You mentioned before we came on that it was really hard to come up. There was like a lot of girls that could have gone on the Mount Hood or Mount Rushmore of the greatest high school girl athletes, female athletes. Who are some of the girls that just missed it?
Yeah, I found this to be really difficult. I'm sure that you could ask a lot of people and they would say right away, well, Maria Motola's got to be on there. She ran the fastest ever at 800. She ran a fast 15. She ran, but she didn't spend a lot of time in Oregon as a high school athlete. So I had a hard time putting her up there because even though she's obviously super fast and went on to do amazing things professionally, because she just didn't do that much in Oregon as a high school athlete, I found that to be difficult. So
she was at Springfield High School. I was coaching and teaching in California. We went up to Fresno for the Foot Locker West.
Yeah.
And she was there. And I might have mentioned this to Albert 2 weeks ago about we were hearing about Julia Stantz. There was no internet. You just heard about her or read about her. We had read about Maria Mottola, and we saw her race for the first time in Fresno. It was pretty cool.
Yeah. And there's no question she was phenomenal. Again, so I don't know if that's part of my criteria. I guess maybe it is because I'm not going to spend too much time on her, but Kate Peters did really good things for here and there. And then she was hurt. And so, I have her as sort of hey, really great, but, just didn't do quite enough for me. There was a young lady at Jesuit, Melissa Lucas, that got second at whatever we were calling it back then, Foot Locker.
Might have been Kinney back then, yeah.
I think it was early 90s, right? But didn't have a long history of dominance in Oregon. And I don't know what she did after. I don't remember much at all. But
yeah,
some other ones
I'll tell you this one, Steve, because I was coaching in the league when she was here. She came from Ventura,
Oh,
Buenaventura Catholic School. So she was maybe only here 1 year, but I think she finished, what, she finished second or third at Foot Locker or
I think she
Kinney.
got second at Foot Locker. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's
So
unbelievable. Yeah, and that's right when I think might have been Jesuits' first year they had girls on the team.
I think I recall that. So um, a couple others, just two that graduated just this last year that both I think could make a case. Emily was Nesky. I don't know what
Wisniewski, yeah.
Wisniewski from
Press.
Crescent Valley. She was I think third at NXN a couple years ago and has had a phenomenal career. Chloe Heiler only 2 years at Lake Ridge, but fantastically good for her 2 years. But historically, and I'll tell you these two were probably the closest to making it that I had a hard time with. With Kathy Hayes from Newburgh, graduated
Yes.
in '81 and was a fabulous high school runner, and also went on to U of O to have an amazing career.
Yeah.
Uh, and also is one of the sweetest, nicest people in the history of the world. But she was in the early '80s, the late '70s. Oregon high school running on the girls' side was really, really good. And so Kathy, I'm not going to say she dominated because I'm going to talk about a couple other girls that were great in that same time. Claudette Grunendahl. Claudette ran at North Salem High School, they both ran about 4:24, 1500. Claudette also ended up going to the University of Oregon, where she was a many-time NCAA champ in the 800, I believe, and was a great 1500-meter runner as well. So those two I found were like super close to making it on my list. And I know Claudette as well, and she's also a super nice person. She lives in LA now. I don't know where Kathy Hayes lives.
Oh, I think I remember Claudette because they did like a documentary on all the first, like one of the earliest Oregon Duck teams, and she was like still doing well as a Masters runner and stuff.
Yeah, but and then she went on to run for Santa Monica Track Club,
Right,
and
that's what it was. That's
was
right.
fabulous, right?
That's
And
her.
so I had one more on my almost list, and this one people probably haven't heard of as much. But back in the mid '70s, there was a gal named Mary Hanlon out of Lincoln High School, and she was. I'm not going to say dominant, but she won a couple titles here and there and was probably the best woman of the mid '70s. Because right after her is when a whole new group came in. It was, and I don't know. There have been so many, and not just in the large schools, but you go back and talk about Holly Dew at Coquille and Amy Nickerson and all these, smaller schools that ran super fast stuff over the years. And I think Oregon high school girls have been really good for a long time. So, but the four that I chose,
Okay, here we go.
I
Drum
feel
roll.
pretty good about.
Okay,
I
here
feel
comes.
pretty good about them.
Okay, here we go.
So, in no particular order, Leanne Warren from Crescent Valley, class of '79. Leanne Warren, and I tried to write down a few things. Leanne Warren was placed high at the state cross country meet, although she was not necessarily a cross country runner. And what I mean by that is that in 1979, in the state track meet, she won the 400 and 800.
Wow.
I believe she finished third at the state meet in cross the previous fall.
Mm-hmm.
Right? She ran 2:03 in the 800. She was also an
Wow.
outstanding 1500-meter runner. She won on the University of Oregon, won, I don't know, a few titles in the 800, was one of the best women in America at 800 meters for a few years. And funny, I have not run into her in years, but for a while, and I'm not sure if she's still doing it, she was a DJ for KINK, I believe.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So, but she was, again, to win the 4, she won the 8 a couple years in a row, and her senior won the 4 and the 8. And as we know at our state meet, the time between like the 15 and the 8 or the 4 and the 8, especially because the 4 is after the 15, the 4-8 double is brutal. And back in 1979, it was just there were only 3 divisions in Oregon, right?
Yeah.
And the 3A state meet was a standalone meet.
Right.
You didn't have the 2As and the 1As in
Okay.
the extra recovery. So she wins the 4 and the 8 at the state meet with it couldn't have been an hour. There's no way it was an hour.
If the schedule's still the same, all they have are the hurdles,
Yeah.
which are quick
Right?
races. Bang, bang, and you're back on the track again.
So she was phenomenal. So again, no particular order, but Leanne Warren at Crescent Valley again as a 4'8" girl that also could run some great cross country. She was one that was not a question for me. She's
Yeah.
probably the first one that came to mind. Again, I'm not putting them in order, but probably one of the first ones that came to mind.
Okay.
So, uh, Kim Roth, Sprague High School,
Yeah.
and they're not all going to come from the late 70s, early 80s, but Kim
Yeah.
Roth was class of 82 at Sprague, and back in we look at the times that people are running now, and we know that people have shoes that are better. We're on tracks that are better. There's more sharing of training, et cetera, et cetera. Kim Roth ran 9:39 back in 82 for 3K. When most of if you go back and look at the winning times for many, many years in Oregon, you could run 9:55 and win the state meet. You could run 10:03 and win the state meet. She ran 9:39 and 4:24
Wow.
back in 82. She won the 3K in 80, 81, and 82. I did not go back and look at what she did in cross, unfortunately, but she was a dominant athlete. And I don't remember where she went to school. Did she
I
go
don't
to?
remember either. I will tell you a short story about her. We do this thing at Nike Portland XC where we put all our champions on a big poster. And the spray coach emailed me and wanted to know more information about Kim Roth because she had won it like twice. And all I knew is that she won it. She won our invitational back in the
What
early
was
80s.
that meet called? Was that just called the Danner?
No, it was called the Aloha Classic.
Lower Classic, because it
Yeah.
didn't become the Danner until Jim passed away, right?
No, we kept the Aloha Classic for a while in the late 90s, about 10 years after he passed away. He
Okay.
went to Jim Danner.
Yeah.
And Kathy Hayes is on that list too. I'm familiar
Yeah.
with those two names. But Kim Roth, uh,
I think she went to Oregon as well. Didn't have quite the career, if I recall, that Kathy Hayes did, that Leanne Warren had, but boy, she was, again, to run 4:24 in 1980 or 81 is different than running 4:24 now.
absolutely.
And some Chloe Heiler's, she ran 4:20, 23, something like that this year. So
Can I say
I
something else too, Dave, about that time period when I first started? Well, that's not the 80s. When I came in the 90s, I had to set up for two courses. The girls ran 3,000 and the boys ran 5,000.
Oh, that's right.
So you don't even know like what, maybe you train the girls equally as the boys, but I would imagine a lot of coaches said, well, they don't run as far, so we're not going to,
Right.
the training's not going to be as rigorous as the boys, so they don't only run 3,000 cross country. So training might have been different too in the early 80s because they ran different distances.
That certainly could be, and it would be fun. I'm trying. There was the coach at Sprague back in the late 70s, early 80s, was a guy named Doc Adams.
Oh
And
yeah.
he had a lot of athletes that were really good. He had a guy that we ran Junior Olympic skitter named Jim Colgan. And he had what was that kid? He was a sophomore. James Rowley. I think as a sophomore finished third in the big schools race. And but Doc Adams could coach the Sprague Olympians, and that guy year after year he had some special athletes, and Kim Roth was definitely one of them. So my next one, again from the late 70s, and I guess this shows my bias. I'm a high school grad from 80, but Aaron Forbes was
Yeah.
probably the first female that I ever saw run that I went, oh my God. Right. She was so good. I started doing like age group track in the 6th or 7th grade, and she was a Portland Track Club kid. She's just a year ahead of me, I think. And so we saw Aaron Forbes and the Portland Track Club people all the time. And she was part of a sunset crew that Toby Daniels was the coach of that team. And they had the sisters. They had the Weirson sisters. Terry Weirson was a 400 hurdler, 300 hurdler, and also an 800 girl and a distance runner and cross. And her sister Marky Weirson was an 800 girl as well. And there was a time when Milk did all these advertisements. Milk, it does a body good. I don't know if you remember
Yep.
that whole campaign. and the Sunset Girls were on a billboards all over Oregon for this advertisement. Milk does a body good.
Nice.
But Erin Forbes was, without question, the dominant girl in the late 70s.
You know, I was
Erin,
can I say
Erin,
something?
Erin
Aaron,
yeah,
okay, so I don't know how I know. I don't know. I was reading this article about Steve Prefontaine, and I was reading this article about his last race. You know, I think he ran with Frank Shorter. Maybe it was a five. I think it was against the Norwegians or the.
75 and May of 75, late May. With Shorter was there. Yep.
Yep, and they invited the Norwegians over. It was like to rebuild the stadium. You know,
Yep.
the west side, right? And they're
Yep.
on at Frank Shorter and Prefontaine are on the grass, just kind of laying around. Maybe they finished the race, and they watch this like 14-year-old girl destroy the mile. And it was Erin Forbes. And I went, I wonder whatever happened to Erin Forbes. That's how I knew the name. And I Googled it and I went, oh wait, she went to Sunset High School. She's a local legend here from where I am. But I think there's like that little cool, tiny little Steve Prefontaine connection. They were like, who's that? Jeez.
She was so good. I think her dad was one of the, at least at the time, was big in the Portland Track Club. Her brother taught. I think he still teaches in the Beaverton district. He taught at Cedar Park Middle School for many years. A guy named Brian Forbes. But Erin was state champion cross country at least a couple times. She won the 1500, well, the mile in 76, the 1500 in 78. She won the 3K in 78 and 79. But she was ridiculously good. And it wasn't just good in Oregon. She was national class before we even talked about things like that. There was no Foot Locker, Kinney, whatever you wanted to call it,
Right.
back then. And she had a good, not spectacular career at Oregon. But I'm sure she was All-American, more than once. But she was not she was never she never make the Olympic team or anything like that. But man, she was really good. And I think one of the first years we used to go to this thing called the Seaside Beach Run, and they had a 7-mile race and they had a 2-mile race. And when I was maybe in the 7th or 8th grade, I lost it. I was a pretty decent runner, and I got my ass kicked by Erin Forbes. Right? She was only a year older than me, so she's always been one that I just thought, oh my, she was the first one I ever saw that I just went, oh my God, this girl is so good.
You
So
know, you for our listeners and viewers, you did a little pause there because she won the mile in 76 and then the 1500 in 78. Oregon, I think, thought they were going to set a trend by going Olympic, doing
right.
Olympic, leaving the 880 behind and the mile behind and the 2
Yep.
mile and going to the 800, the 15 and the 3. But
My
but
my
not
fresh my
the rest of
freshman
the
year of
country
high
hasn't followed
school
us.
was 77, and we still ran the mile. We 880 mile and 2 mile. And my sophomore year, it changed to 800, 1500, and 3000. Yes, and we were sure we're on the leading edge of this, right? And now we still are. Us in Hawaii and Rhode Island.
Yeah, I think around that time too, I was learning the metric system too. We were
Yeah,
really convinced it was all going to happen, but it
yeah.
hasn't quite happened. I will say this: when we once signed up for a meet in Vancouver, and the kids ran the 1600 and the 3200, and they were just Oregon kids. Just like, what does that mean? I'm like, oh, I don't know. Don't worry about it. You ran fast.
I still get in fights with my California buddies, about the whole thing. So we can agree to disagree on things like that, I suppose. What's funny though, I'd have to double check, but I recall hearing that the state of New York, the girls run the 1500, but the boys run the 1600.
That's strange.
I know. What?
Oh,
So,
that's weird.
all right, I got my last one.
I think I know who it is. I'm not going to say anything, but I think I know who it is.
This one is much more recent.
I know it is.
I just, I had to go and do a little bit of research because I wanted to make sure I gave her her due. But she was a 10-time state champ in Oregon. She won cross country 3 times. She was a 7-time champ on the track. I need to include at least one 4x4 team. She won. I don't know. She won she won a lot of stuff. And when she was a sophomore, she went 924 for 3K.
That's the person. That's why.
She eventually went 414 for 1500 her senior year, which was at the time the 7th fastest high school girl of all time. And that's Ella Donahue from Grant. Um, and her father ran at Madras. He's not on my almost made it list, but Mike Donahue was a
But
pretty
he's a
dang
legend.
runner at Madras.
Yeah.
And they're Northeast Portland family, and I've known Mike for a long time, and he and Lori and their kids, and so I sort of had a front row seat to watching Ella, progress over the years, and just watching how she was, I don't want to say coached necessarily, but just brought along. When she was young, I mean, she ran stuff here and there, and they had fun, and they played soccer, and they did all this stuff, and then she got to high school, and it's like, oh, she's pretty good. And freshman year, she ran fast, and we said, so what's she going to run? Is she going to go run out Nike Outdoors, this and this? And Mike goes, no, she wants to go have fun this summer. And they didn't go do any of that extra stuff, right? And they just brought her along just slowly, and they didn't run a ton of mileage. And Ella is just she's such a great ambassador for our sport too. If I asked Ella, I'm not super close with Ella, but if I asked Ella, could you talk to my girl about this? Could you come and talk to the kids here, when she was at Stanford or even now as a pro? I mean, she's just, I know she's done stuff with Wildwood, with Robin and Marie. She's just an amazing young human. But it's certainly during her time in Oregon, the dominant athlete of her time, without question, right? In a time when we had a lot of girls running fast.
There were a lot of girls
Right?
in her era that were really good.
But she was so good. And went to Stanford, many time All-American at Stanford. She's running for the swoosh club, coached by Diljit Taylor now. I think he finished 7th or 8th at the recent U.S. championships in the 5K. But man, what a joy that when she ran that 9:24 her sophomore year. I mean, we all just looked at each other and went, "Oh my God, she'd be my 4th guy."
Right. That's a really good
Right,
time.
in cross country. But boy, she was a pleasure to watch, and just sort of mild mannered. But man, when she started running, you give her the baton in a relay race, it was like, oh boy, watch out, right?
Yeah. I guess my 3 memories of her is she had like a showdown with Alexa Ephraimson in the 3000 at the Oregon Relays. And those are 2 legit runners. My other memory, you might remember this, is at the state meet, she ran so hard. Can't remember if it was the 15 or the 3, it might have been the 3, that she started stumbling before the
Oh
finish line. And I was like concerned she wasn't going to make it. She still won by a ton. I don't know if she actually fell, but she was like losing losing
yeah,
consciousness. She's running so hard. And my other memory, this is as a parent, Davey, it would just be so thrilling. She won her race, turned around, and saw her sister Piper come in.
yeah.
And she was super excited. I mean, she was jumping up and down because her sister Piper was right behind her. That was pretty cool.
That kind of stuff just makes you feel good. Like that, that some parents did a good job, some coaches did a good job, some that kids care about each other like that. I love Ella, and I'm super happy that she's still going, and that she seems to have found a good spot professionally with running with Diljit in that the BYU post grad group. So anyway,
So
woo! I
we're
feel
gonna
good about that 4, by the
yeah,
way.
that's great. I'm gonna rehash them here. Leanne Warren of Crescent Valley, that's in Corvallis, Oregon. Kim Roth of Sprague, the Olympians of Salem, Oregon. Aaron Forbes of Sunset High School. If you were to write a letter to them, that would be Portland, Oregon, but I kind of think it's in Beaverton. Ella Donahue, Grant High School in Northeast Portland, the Generals of Grant. That's a pretty good.
Sunset, their name is the Apollos, but for some reason, way back in the day, we referred to them as the Apollos, right? So anyway, I always call them the Apollos.
Yeah.
So,
Sunset.
all
Yeah,
right.
they built this cover for the kids to exercise and stretch. You've probably seen it there at Sunset, and there's all this great stuff about Aaron Forbes and the other great Apollos that
And it's not, I mean, that program, well, Coach Niue, we all know, right? And he's done a great job there. But that program has such great tradition, right? I mean,
does, yeah.
you go back, their boys were state champs a few times in the 80s, and just a number of guys that not that made this list or anything, but really good runners and a tradition. Dave Robbins was the boys coach all those years, and Toby Daniels the girls coach back in the 70s and part of the 80s, and That was a phenomenal program. And it still is. Dan does a
It's
great
still
job.
good. Yep.
So,
The purple guys. All right.
yeah.
So
All right.
let's go on now to the boys who just missed Mount Hood.
It's there. It is so hard. I mean, I've been around. I've been back in Portland for 20 some years, but I could go back into the 50s and 60s and find athletes that you think ought to be on this list, right? And did I not write him down? Because I wanted to write him down, and I'm going to write him down now so don't forget. I'm going to talk about him first. So there was a kid that ran at Wilson in the I'm going to say in the 90s, maybe mid 80s. His name was Jim Grella Jr. And he was a pretty darn good runner. Ended up running at Georgetown. But his dad, Jim Grella Sr.,
Yes, that's who I know.
Jim Grella Sr. ran at Lincoln in the mid 1950s. And
Yeah.
Jim Grella Sr. was a state champ a couple times over in the mile. I don't know how cross country worked back in the day. It seems like I went back and looked at some results, and it was hard to find everything I wanted in the mid 50s. So I don't know what his cross country pedigree was, but he was darn good and went on to the University of Oregon, one of the first sub 4 minute milers
Right.
in the U.S. He was not the first, but he was one of the early ones. He was competing for U.S. championships and Olympic teams in the late 50s and early 60s. So he certainly could have been on my list.
Yeah, he's great. There's some good ones not going to make the list here.
Yeah. More recently, Crater High School in Southern Oregon has turned out 3 ridiculously good kids.
Yes.
And I it's so hard not to put 1 or 2 or all 3 of them on this list, but I don't know why. I just can't quite. I don't know why. But Tyrone Gorsey, Josiah Tostenson, and Taven Kitchen. I mean, if you've been paying attention to high school running the last few years, you know what those kids. I mean, Tyrone ran 13:45 for 5K. Josiah ran 152 his freshman year in high school. He's only a 147 guy now. But he's also run sub 4 in the mile. Taven's run sub 8 in the 3K. He's run under 14 minutes in the 5K. Like, these guys are so good, and Justin Loftus has done a phenomenal job, but I just couldn't quite get him on there. So
maybe if we do this in 5 years or 10 years or 15 years,
who knows? But boy, those guys are good. Going way back again. A couple weeks ago, I went to Eugene before the USA's for the tribute to Bill Dellinger the night before the USA's began. And Bill Dellinger, as a coach, was phenomenal at Oregon. But Bill Dellinger also made 3 Olympic teams. He had world records indoors at 2 miles and 3 miles, and was a many-time state champion here in Oregon. He has a brother named Fred who was also a state champion in Oregon. But Bill Dellinger was another one who was close, but I couldn't quite put him on there.
And he's a Miller from Springfield High School.
He's a Springfield High School guy. Yep.
And his brother was too.
Yep. Couple guys from Klamath Union. It's actually 3 from Klamath Union.
That was like the crater of the 90s. Yeah.
In the late 90s, early
2000s. Yeah.
The first one, though, was a kid that moved out here from, I'm going to say it was Alabama or something, and started at Glide High School and then transferred to KU, named Tracy Garrison.
Yes.
And Tracy Garrison tore it up, right? He ran like 8:21 back when 8:21 was crazy, right? He and Matt McGurk, I think, battled back in the day, right? So, but Garrison,
I'm going to say Tracy Garrison. We used to do this meet called Sunkissed indoor meet at the LA Sports Arena, and I want to remember that Tracy Garrison came down and just cleaned out all the southern section.
So good, right? And he won a number of state titles, right? The other 2 are KU guys are a little more recent. Ian Dobson, class of 00, was, despite not winning the state meet in the 3K senior year,
upset alert.
Eric Lodgeston beat him that day. But Dobson was another guy that was dominant in Oregon during his tenure. And
I watched him make the Foot Locker team at Mount Sac. Yeah. And,
went on to Stanford, many-time All-American, and made an Olympic team.
Correct.
Right? So that gives him a little more credence for me that he made Olympic team, right? That's pretty special. So Dobson, and then a few years after him was Lauren Jesperson.
Yeah.
Lauren Jesperson was a rare kid that was a state champ at 800 and a state champ in cross country. And he wasn't just an okay state champ, like one because nobody was any good. He beat his own teammate. Geez, now I can see his face.
Me too. Sanchez? No.
No, it's Gomez, Jake
Gomez. Jacob
And
Gomez. Yeah.
went on to Stanford, was an All-American, and was an 825 guy on the track. And Lauren Jesperson beat him in cross. And in the epic race the next year, when Lauren was a senior,
Is that the one where he fell on the track?
He lost to Galen by a half a step.
Okay. There's one year I thought Jesperson like did the little like wobbly thing, and like maybe that was the year before. It was pretty.
I don't recall, but he was great. But I didn't get him on my team.
Okay.
All right, I got three more that I didn't make my team. Okay.
Okay.
Dub Myers. Park Rose class of '82, who I believe won the state meet a couple years in a row in the 1500, and by his sophomore year in college, finished 5th at the Olympic trials.
Yeah, he was big time.
And I had not seen Dub in many years. When I went to the Bill Dellinger Memorial, Dub was there, and it was a joy to see him. He lives in San Diego. He's lived a great life, doing fantastic. But he was fabulous to watch. Park Rose High School class of '82. This other one though is I'm gonna do the most recent one, then I'm gonna come back to this other one because it's sort of a funny story. Okay, so Carter Cutting, Wilsonville class of '23.
Yeah,
and that kid, he came up in a time, their freshman year was COVID, right? Yeah. And Carter moved away. Carter's family moved to Utah, where he got pretty good. Ran at Cedar Creek or what do you
Cross Creek or something like that.
Cross, yeah.
He won Arcadia
he won Arcadia's junior year.
Yeah,
150, right? And moves back to Oregon, goes 148 and 347 his senior year, right? And maybe people say, well, he's not really an Oregon kid. He lived in Utah. I don't know. I still think of him as an Oregon kid. He started here, he finished here. But my last almost. So I'm living in California, and I started hearing a story about a kid out of Junction City High School.
Oh yeah,
named Billy Harper.
Yep.
And people are telling me, and he's a 3A kid, same as I was, and people are saying, hey, have you heard about this Billy Harper kid? He's running faster than you ran. And I said, Billy Harper? And I'm thinking to myself, he's a kid lives on a farm outside of Junction City, and he's maybe got freckles and big ears, and Dad, I'm running cross country this year, right? And he is tearing it up. He's winning everything, right? And then I find out that Billy Harper and his brother Elvis are from Kenya.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just a fun, but he was great, right? So
really
I don't know if he was close to the Mount Rushmore, but I just always loved hearing that little Billy Harper was tearing it up out of Junction City.
I moved here in the early 90s, and I think he did too. And so he was just dominating. And back then, you mentioned how the state meet was split. The 1A, 2A was at Western Oregon.
Yep.
3A, 4A was at Hayward Field. So I got to watch Billy Harper dominate.
Yeah. So
all
right, so that's my almost made it.
Okay.
And I could have gone 30 more deep, right? But those are the ones that I really felt strongly about. So,
well, Dave, before we go into your final four for Mount Hood, I do want to make a comment about two programs that you mentioned, Klamath Union and Crater, which are not located in Portland, not located in Eugene, but located in areas of Oregon that people may not know about, Central Point and then Klamath Falls.
Yeah.
But Klamath Union had this moment in the late 90s, early 2000s, and Crater for the last, I guess, 20 years.
Yeah, more than 20. I mean, early 2000s, right? But, the Klamath Union thing, Ashland had a great run in the 80s and 90s, and not necessarily, state champs year after year after year, but very good almost every year. And they had a coach named Bob Julian, and all the Julian boys, Bob Jr. and Pete Julian, who a lot of people know, and Tim Julian. But they had a phenomenal deal going for years and years and years. And then KU got good, and KU got good when Marnie Mason started coaching.
Who I think
You
is
know,
a famous duck also. Was she a
she
successful?
ran in Oregon, and I'm going to say she ran for Klamath Union
She
herself.
did. She did run for
Um,
Klamath Union. Yes, that's
and
correct.
she had just a phenomenal run. I mean, they had, they had Jake Gomez, they had Lauren Jesperson, Ian Dobson, Lauren Jesperson. What 1 year, I think they went 1, 2, 3 at state in cross and
Yeah.
didn't win. Their
You
fifth
know,
guy got 138th or something.
and this is really bad of me because I should, be more prepared. But before Ian Dobson won, there was a guy that won like,
Jeremy Park.
yes, right before him. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I
it was
mean,
like,
she was, and it's fun. It's so fun to talk to her about coaching. She's how to say it exactly. I would say she's sort of a go by feel person,
mhm,
right? I don't think she's going to sit down and talk to you about microcycles and double thresholds and all this, but she knew how to get kids to run fast, right? And
yeah.
I think so much of that is the way that she treated them and the way her relationship with kids, and she was phenomenal. And I look at what Justin's doing at Crater, and it's phenomenal, right? I mean, it's 3 years ago, we were all talking about Newbury Park. People said, well, they got all these talent kids. I go, hey, I could be at Newbury Park, and I don't think those kids would have run as fast as they ran with Sean, right? So it's not just having good kids, right? And I think what Justin's doing at Crater, what Sean did at Newbury Park, what happened at Klamath Union, it's not just luck, right? There's somebody doing something special there.
Yeah.
And so those programs are phenomenal, no question. So, and I love those people. Justin makes me mad sometimes, but I still love him.
Yeah,
So,
I've mentioned before in other episodes here about creators. My job now is to get on an airplane and fly up and down the coast and take pictures, or drive up to Seattle, go Dempsey, and I see Coach Loftus every single time, everywhere
it's
from
remarkable.
like the Dempsey to San Juan Capistrano and all be in between.
I sort of wondered if Josiah and Taven went to school this year.
Well, if anything, they have privileges to go to airport lounges.
Their miles are huge.
Well, actually, when they went to San Juan Capistrano, it was during spring break, and I had the same problem. The airline tickets were so expensive. They
Yeah.
drove from Central Point.
Oh, they do a lot of driving.
Do a lot of driving, actually. So no lounge, maybe the lounge at Chevron or something. All right, here we go. Now we're going to go to the Mount Hood of boys. Who do you have?
All right. I thought I found that three of them were slam dunks, didn't even have to think about.
I can think of two. I can think of two of them, and I bet they're the same ones.
So I'm going to start with the one that was not my slam dunk.
Okay.
This one took me a while to come up with, and I had some of those other guys in there, and then I started doing a little bit more, digging, and I was like, oh my gosh, how could I not pick this guy? And this is an old one, back in the Jim Grella and Bill Dellinger days. And this guy ran for Cottage Grove High School, went to University of Oregon, one of the first ever sub 4 minute guys, and his name was Dyrol Burleson.
Yes.
And what he did as a high school athlete, I got him state cross country champion 57. He won the 880 and the mile in 58. But what he did at Oregon and beyond, like his resume is as good. I mean, he doesn't have an Olympic medal, but he was a many-time, U.S. champion. I believe he had an American record here or there. But just his resume I'll call it a professional, as a post-collegian, was at the time that he was alive, was competing, would rival any American, anybody. Yeah. Right? He was, he's a couple years younger than Jim Grella, but he was better than I think he was better than Grella. And just what he did at Oregon was phenomenal. And I've never had the pleasure of meeting Mr. Burleson. I Don't know if he's still alive or not.
Oh, okay.
Graduated high school in 58, so he would have been born in 40, so he's
Yeah.
85.
85. Yeah.
You know, I was in
Awesome.
Cottage Grove recently, by the way.
Yeah.
When I went to watch the Prefontaine meet, it was on the 5th of July, and I got down a couple days early. Stayed with an old buddy of mine, Toby Cook. Toby ran at Gladstone. By the way, Toby was a 49-point guy, 153 something, 352, 835 guy in 1984. He didn't make my list either, but he was pretty dang good. But anyway, Toby said, what do you want to do on Friday night, the 4th of July? I said, I don't know. He goes, you want to go to the dirt track races in Cottage Grove?
Yeah.
And so we went down to car racing on a dirt track with signs that say, beware of debris, flying debris. And it was a slice of Americana I certainly will never forget. But anyway.
I know we're supposed to be talking about our 4 people, but I took pictures for 4 days at the NCAA's and I couldn't find hotels. I didn't know I was going to be taking pictures until late. If you know anything about Eugene and big meets, if you don't get your hotels.
Yeah, it's hard.
Well, I spent the weekend at the Best Western in Cottage Grove, and I don't run anymore, Dave, because my knee hurts too much. So I just went on these really nice walks through the lovely city of Cottage Grove, which was the setting for Animal House in their parade and such. Yeah.
Well, and that's where Dyro Burleson is from, and he's on my Mount Hood, Mount Rushmore for Oregon. And
yay, okay.
I wish that I had gotten to see him run. I never did. So, all right. As I said, my other 3, it took me no time whatsoever to come up with these 3, and I'll start with the one that I'm clearly biased for.
Yeah.
But I don't think I'm stretching it to make my case that Galen Rupp is on the state of Oregon high school, Mount Rushmore of distance runners, Mount Hood. He didn't win a lot of state titles.
Yes.
He won 2 in cross. I shouldn't say he didn't win a lot. And I guess he did win the 1500 and 3K his senior year, and he did win the 3K his junior. So I guess he only won 5, which is
there were a number of there was a young man at Centennial and at
Ryan Vale who beat him at the district meet that year. He beat Galen at district in the 3K.
Boy from Beaverton High School,
Stuart Egan.
There were some really good boys in Oregon at that time.
And
then the KU kids were still around, right?
Jake had graduated. Jesperson was graduated.
Okay.
When Jake was a senior, Galen was a sophomore.
Okay.
But Alec Wall was the year before from Grant.
Mm-hmm.
His brother Scott was the next year. But Zubair Ahmed was a junior when Galen was a senior. He ran 8:18 the next year. There were a lot of good dudes out there, right? And the year before, Alec Wall was the year before, Joaquin Chapel was the year before, Mike McGrath. Mike McGrath could have been on my list.
Yeah.
But
good boys
Mike
at that
was
time.
The year before, 148 and 405 guy. But Galen, 5-time state champ. But he, when he graduated high school, I think his PR in the 800 was 201 because he basically never ran an 800. But he ran 401 in the mile, and he closed that race in 157 something.
Mm-hmm.
He was 202 high and 157 mid, I think, on the end. And that was a crazy thing. That was the 50th anniversary of Roger Bannister's first, the first ever sub 400 mile, May 7th of 2004. And Galen was going to do it just as for fun. Alberto worked at Nike, and they were doing a special race that was going to go 4 minutes, out at the Nike track. And literally, Galen went out for, I don't know, an 8 or 10 mile run in the morning, right? And Alberto said, "Yeah, you're going to go out and run 406, 407. Just get in there, have some fun." And he got out there and went through in 202 something. And then all of a sudden went, "Oh, I can do this." And it ran 401.5. Wow. I think it was 401.7. I can't remember exactly, but it was pretty surprising for all of us.
Yeah.
Right? He was really training, as later in that season, he ran 1338, 1337, 1330.
He's at the 5,000 high school.
1337.89, I think it was. Anyway, for 5K, but he also ran 2909 for 10K. So when training to run those things and running almost a 4 flat mile, was pretty surprising for us that day. But you know, he won the state meet in cross twice. He was our team captain and leader the first year that we won the state meet in cross. And
Didn't
you
he,
know,
Coach? Didn't he set the course record at Lane Community College also?
I think he did. The junior year, I think he went 14:56 junior year in that really great epic race with Lauren. And then senior year, he won fairly easily, and I think he went 14:55 until I think Matthew Matan broke it. And
Yeah.
Matthew Matan could have been on our list too.
Could have been, yeah, for our first, it wasn't our first high school 4-minute miler. Yeah.
And I think Gorsey ran faster than Matan eventually. But Galen, you know, I had a front row seat to Galen stuff, and he was just a ridiculously phenomenal competitor, but also just a really good kid. I mean, one of my favorite. I got a couple favorite Galen memories, but one was driving home the year that we won the state meet and cross, the first time we'd ever won. You know, we used to get the printout of the results, right? You didn't walk up there with you have that piece of paper, you could turn
you had a little flip of paper that, yeah.
Right. And so we
use that.
And all of our kids, some years kids went home with their parents, this, that, but that year, all 7 of our boys were in the van with us.
Mm-hmm.
And they're passing around the results, and Galen's looking at it. And all of a sudden he looks around the van, he goes, dudes, you would have won without me.
Mm-hmm.
And you're just giving them credit for like how they ran that day and giving them credit for it. Like if I wasn't here, you're still the state champions, you know? And it was just a really cool moment for me to be around where he didn't take credit for it.
That's
right.
nice.
He wanted them to understand that they did something special. Right. And he gets all the accolades, of course. Right. But his freshman year at Oregon, you know, he didn't run in the fall. He went to Oregon later, and he runs the 10K at the Twilight meet or something, and he breaks the American junior record at 10K. It was Chappa's record. Chappa has the high school record, and at the time had the junior record as well. And Galen broke that record his freshman year at Oregon. And he's taking a victory lap, and the whole place is chanting, Galen, 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 right? And 3 of our kids that were still on the team at Central were there watching. And one of them was a senior. And so he's coming around, he's getting high fives and, you know, talking to people. And he sees our 3 kids, and they're hugging him and high fiving him. And he takes 5, maybe goes 5 more meters, and he's talking to somebody else. And then he comes back, and one of our kids' name was Ricky Chapman. And Ricky had just gotten into Notre Dame. And it was his dream school, right? And Galen comes back to Ricky, and the crowd is chanting, Galen, Galen, Galen. And he goes back and he says, Ricky, I just heard you got into Notre Dame. That's so awesome.
That's sweet. And
I was just like blown away that in that moment, again, here he was thinking about some other kid, not himself, right? And I know that a lot of people don't know the Galen Rupp that I know. Those kinds of things make me happy to have had been associated with it in some way and have had this front row seat for all these years. So he's on my Mount Rushmore. 2 Olympic medals, numerous American records, you know, so he was an easy one.
You know, Coach, I was in 2012 coming back from either I was visiting my brother in Sacramento or coming back to my parents' house. But either way, I was in Wairika or Weed and driving like a madman because I think, you know, because London, I think at 1 o'clock our time or noon or something like that, the 10,000 was going to be run. And we wanted to see Galen run the 10,000. Mm-hmm. And his teammate also trains in Beaverton too.
What, Mo?
Yeah, there we go, Mo.
Yeah, Mo Farah. Yeah.
Mo Farah. So we kind of like had a Mo Farah thing too, because we would go to the Nike. My girls were I think my oldest was in high school. My youngest was a Bowerman runner at Nike, and so she would see the 2 of them they just love that Bark Dust Trail at Nike, right? And so we were feverishly trying to get to Ashland. We go into, you know, I've got 2 little kids. Well, they're not little; they're like middle school and high school kids. We go into a bar in Ashland, and they don't have it on the TV. And I'm like, we got to get on the TV. And I tell you, 10,000, not the most exciting race, for
No.
like if you're like a non-fan. But I was explaining the entire bar, even though it's Ashland, we're in Oregon, explaining what was going on, and everybody got into it that
And
last
what was
200
probably
meters.
going to happen, right? Like watch the last couple laps, it's going to get crazy.
And we have two people that live in Beaverton, one that went to Central Catholic, that's local, kind of for Ashland. And
Um,
everybody in the bar went crazy. It was so much fun. It was awesome.
well, I think we were at having our team camp in Sisters that August, and Matt McGurk, the coach at Willamette, another guy that could have been on my list,
Yeah, South Eugene got it.
um, a great Oregon runner as well. He had a house in Sisters. He rented us for our team camp, and then we were watching. I believe that was the year we were watching there. But I had a very similar situation where in 1988 I was driving to Reno for a road race from the Bay Area, and there was no way I was going to make it all the way to Reno. And my housemate Jeff Atkinson was running in the finals
He
of the
was.
1500 that evening. So we stopped somewhere between Sacramento and Reno at a restaurant bar called Charlie Brown's,
Yeah,
and they did
I know
not
that
have
place.
the Olympics on. And we said, "Can you please turn the Olympics on?" And they said, "What for?" We said, "Well, my roommate is running in the finals of the 1500 meters." And Jeff had a very specific race plan that he ran every single race. He went out in the back, he moved up, he moved up. By the time they got a lap to go, on the leader's shoulder. And he did this every single race. And so in the early going, the gun goes off, he's way in the back, and people are saying, and I'm saying to him, explaining what's happening, why we're watching this. And they get all excited. And then the gun goes off, and he's in last place. And they're going, "Oh, he's in last place." I go, "Don't worry, don't worry."
It's got a
He
strategy.
moves up, and now a lap to go. He's on the leader's shoulder, and the place is going crazy. But he had run 55 something to get to the leader's shoulder on that lap, and sort of faded, and the whole bar just got real quiet. They all just went back to their business. He only got 10th in the Olympics.
We made
Uh,
the final. That was pretty
but
incredible.
anyway, I love that story that you guys were racing down there to see
Well, it's
that.
before our cell phones could do that kind of stuff. We could have just like pulled over at the rest stop and watched on our phone, but
But
I don't think that technology exists in 2012.
it reminds the other thing is you mentioned when Ella Donahue won, she turned back to see Piper, right?
Yeah.
Well, when Mo won and was, of
Yeah.
course, happy to have won, but when he looked and saw that Galen had been second, like
Yeah.
that was another one of those really cool moments,
It was
right?
really
He was
cool.
just as happy for him.
Mhm.
I have a poster of that finish in my apartment here. So
That's great.
anyway, so cool stuff. All right, I got two to go, right?
Yep. We got two to go.
Two to go. Well, one of them I think is obvious. Almost everybody would have. This other one I don't think everybody would have. But this guy also made an Olympic team. Did not get to go to the Olympics. The U.S. boycotted the Olympics in 1980, and this guy ran one of the single greatest, most fantastic, emotional races that I've ever seen, and it's Bill McChesney. Now, Bill
Okay.
McChesney graduated from South Union High School in 1977. He won, I think he won the 2 mile his sophomore, junior, and senior years. He was an 8:52 miler back when 8:50 was ridiculous.
Right.
He also, I think, broke 14 minutes for 5K back when when Jerry Lindgren had the national record, and Bill might have been second or third on that list for a long time. He also ran 29 flat for 10K in high school. He was, if you grew up in Oregon as a distance runner, Bill McChesney was a guy that you wanted to be. And obviously, there was another guy that was a few years ahead of him that everybody knew. But, my freshman year in high school, Bill McChesney and Dirk Lakeman were seniors at South Eugene. And you wanted to be Bill McChesney. And you read stories about Bill McChesney doing fartlek workouts, but it wasn't just running hard for 5 telephone poles and easy to the next one. It was holding his breath between telephone poles.
Hmm.
It was just all kinds of stuff that Bill McChesney did. And he had, I think his senior year, he won the state and cross, and two guys from South Salem, Clancy Devery and Jeff Hildebrand, was second and third. And it was a pretty good race, actually, but Bill was the class of Oregon for his 3 years. And But that race in 1980, the 5,000 meters, and obviously we hadn't boycotted yet, so this was to make the Olympic team. I'm going to say it was about a mile to go, and Bill just throws down, right, and just takes off, and the group lets him go, and he builds up a huge lead. And pretty soon they start catching him with on the the last lap, and I think it was Centrowitz Senior,
Right.
and maybe Dick Berkeley
I think you might be right.
caught him, and a guy from Idaho State named Gerald Jones that was running for Santa Monica is about to catch Bill McChesney. And that crowd is a Bill McChesney crowd. It's Salem. Right. I mean, it's Eugene, Oregon. Bill is a South Eugene high school guy. The McChesneys are Eugene royalty. And Gerald Jones is running him down, and Bill hangs on to get third and drops to the ground and kisses the track, and the place goes crazy. And it was one of the most surreal moments that I've ever seen in that stadium. I was only there 2 days that year. That was my first Olympic trials that I ever went to. I was only there for 2 days, and that was one of them. But man,
Coach, I feel as we were talking, I was like, well, we've talked about Quator and Klamath Union, but of course, there's the Axemen of South Eugene. When I was an 8th grader and I wasn't a cross country fan or anything like that, the Axemen did something you just don't see in 1970s. They fly down or drive down to Mount Sac, the same meet where Jeff Nelson sets the record for the course for that lasted forever. And I wasn't on the team because I was an 8th grader, but when I got to high school the next year, all the kids were talking about these guys in purple, the Axemen, just demolished the entire southern section.
Those teams, Harry Johnson was the coach there, and there were 3 McChesney brothers. Unfortunately, Tom and Bill both passed away. But one of the brothers, Steve, is a very successful coach at Newton South High School outside of Boston. I think he was NSAF National Coach of the Year about 4 years ago. He got that award in Eugene, which was really cool.
One of my assistant coaches ran for South Eugene. We went to NXN and at Portland Meadows, and he introduced me to him because he made it to NXN.
But that team, I mean, you go back and look what they did back in the day. They set the national record at 4 by mile. I believe they had the national record at in the DMR for a while. They later, with Matt McGurk, broke the national record at 4 by 1500, which is a pretty soft record, to be honest, but still they have it. But Harry Johnson, that program was phenomenal. And it's I don't know if everybody knows this, but the McChesney's mother, Marcia, made their uniforms. She sewed their uniforms.
Wow.
Right? She put them together, and their warm-ups and all that stuff. It was crazy what they did back in the day. And another guy that I should have had on my list as an almost was Jeff Hess.
Correct. He had the steeplechase high school record for like 30 years or something.
He was in between. He was after McChesney, but before my class. He's a year ahead of me, but he famously, it was a cold day his senior year at the state cross country meet, and he wore socks over his hands, right? And about 3K in, he rips his socks off and takes off, and wins
like
the race.
Kip Keino with his hat. That's the big moment.
Yep. But that program, that was what you wanted to be, right? When I was, we won the state meet my sophomore and senior year at Gladstone. And we wanted to be South Eugene. They were 3A, we were 2A, and we certainly couldn't touch them. But boy, that was a team to watch, and just fun to be around, right? So, all right, and the last one, I don't think there's any arguing. I don't think nobody could say that he should be on there. But Steve Prefontaine, for every kid that ran in Oregon in the 1970s and 80s and 90s, and I don't know if kids still feel the same way about Prefontaine, but he was the guy. I have my Prefontaine, memorial. What do you call this ticket? This, I don't know.
Souvenir, 50
souvenir ticket. And I got Prefontaine stuff on my walls. And I remember the day he died. My mom came into my room. I was 13 years old. And said, she's sobbing and says Pre died. And Holy cats. Just I saw him race one time, Portland Indoor when I was about 12 years old. And he ran, I think, 8:22 for 2 miles, and I think broke the American record. And it was one of those things, if you ever saw a pre-race, you just never forgot it, right? And whether he would still be the legend that he is if he had stayed alive, if he had run in 76, win or not win, would he have gone down as this legend that he is? I don't know. But what he did as a high school athlete, I think he had the national record at 2 miles. He had the national record at 5K for a little bit. I think when he ran a 5K, he I don't know, he ran a super fast 2 mile within that 5K, right?
Yeah.
But and he was running against the best guys in the world as a high school senior,
Yeah,
right? So
didn't he run the USSR meet? That was a big deal in
yeah,
'69.
yeah. And just, obviously it
He had
wasn't
the cover of
just
Sports Illustrated. That's that was a
cover of
big
Sports Illustrated.
as
I
a
would pay
freshman.
some money for that one. I would pay some money for that cover.
He was
Uh,
like he was a freshman too. He was like
yeah,
they like opening meet in September, and when they usually have college football or pro football or baseball on the cover.
it's wild, wild stuff. And he, outspoken about what he believed, and his fighting the AAU, standing up to the system, is something that whether Pre was right about everything that he believed or not, I don't know. But I love that he took a stance on things, right? He cared about more than himself. I mean, that whole thing where he refused to run certain races and got in trouble for it. He wanted to bring in athletes and have them get paid, and they wouldn't let him do it. And he found a way to do stuff anyway. He just, and I'm sure that the movies about Pre take some artistic license, but I don't think that the essence of who he was and what he believed in is wrong in those movies, right?
Yeah.
Um, just I can watch those movies anytime. Can we go to a camp and kids want to watch Without Limits or the other Prefontaine movie or Fire on the Track? I can sit and watch those all the time, right? And yeah, it's it's sad the way it all ended for him, but boy, what a legacy, right? I mean, every American record from 2K to 10K he owned when he died. Um,
I went on a
so
glamping vacation about 7 or 8 years ago. I'm kind of getting old for tents, so I went glamping. And so we went down the coast. We started in Newport and we finished in the Redwoods in California.
yeah,
And I can't remember if we stayed. I don't know. We had to go through Coos Bay to get to our next camp spot, and we spent the day chasing after Prefontaine. Like we went to the bank where he has all his stuff in as a museum at a bank. We went to his cemetery. We went to his house. We did the hill repeats by Marshfield High School. We went on
yes.
the track was actually closed. We figured out a way to get in. Went on the track. We didn't have time to go to the beach because I guess there's a great place where you love to run at the beach. But we ran out of time. But yeah, we had a great Prefontaine day.
Well, it's again, I don't push it with my kids. I want them to know who Pre was, but I want them to find their own pre-inspiration. Not I don't want it to be mine, right?
Mm.
But there's no question that he made a lasting impact, for me, and I'm super happy that I grew up in Oregon and got to see him run at least one time, and um, you know, didn't end up going to Oregon, but I still appreciate Steve Prefontaine. Stephen Roland Prefontaine, right? So
let's recap. We've got, how do you say Burleson's first name?
I say Dyrol Burleson.
Dyrol Burleson from Cottage Grove. Galen Rupp from Central Catholic. Cottage Grove, by the way, is about 40 minutes south of Eugene. Galen Rupp from Central Catholic, which is in, is that Southeast Portland?
Yep, it's about a mile from where I'm sitting.
Southeast Portland. Bill McChesney from South Eugene, very close to Hayward Field. If you ever go, you ever like all if you want to spend some time during like USATF championships or Prefontaine or Olympic trials, go to the South Eugene track because you will meet everybody there doing their warm-ups. It's amazing. It's so
and
much
most people are not averse to you saying hi. And
Oh yeah.
they don't have an hour to talk to you, but if you go up and you say, "Hey, aren't you so and so?" They're like, "Yeah, sure," you know. And not only will you see people that are currently running, but you'll see a
Legends.
bunch of old people, old guys that used to run fast. I got a group that when we go to these big meets, you know, we got a little group that goes running, right? And so we usually meet at South Gene Track, and it's Jamie Harris, your Fresno guy, right?
Yeah.
Ronnie Harris ran at Navy,
Yeah.
Mark Coogan, Tom Nohilly, John Troutman, a guy named Bob Lesko that ran at Yale, maybe. All 4 minute milers, right? Some 4 minute guys. But I don't know how I get invited, but I get invited to go with these guys. I'm friends with them. So we're standing out there one day after a run, and Steve Richards, who was the coach at South Eugene for a while, I don't think he's coaching anymore. He comes up and he goes, "What's this group? A bunch of 4 minute milers and Dave Frank?"
Yeah.
But you'll see Nathan Ritzenheim out there running some
Yeah,
days, and
that's cool.
uh, but crazy. That track is called the McChesney track,
Yeah.
right? But the sign that says the McChesney track is this dilapidated, old, looks like it should have been replaced 20 years ago sign. Like that's the best you can do for the McChesney royalty of Eugene.
Yeah.
Sort of cracks me up the irony that that track has a sign that does not do justice to the glory of the McChesneys.
And then
So
the fourth person on Mount Hood is Steve Prefontaine from Marshfield High School, which is in the Oregon coast. A very large bay. You know, they kind of like brag it's the second largest bay behind San Francisco Bay. Good mill town back then, maybe not anymore, but
I've only been there one time myself, not
it's
for a
pretty.
long time either.
It got a huge bridge going into it. It's old time Oregon. It's pretty cool. I really enjoyed my visit there.
Speaking of Coos Bay Marshfield High School, there was a last thing here. The kid that he really wanted to break Prefontaine's record in the 800 this year,
He
and
did,
went
yeah.
150. He went 153 midseason to break Prefontaine's 800 record, and then in the state prelims goes 153. And I see him out on the practice track afterwards. I say, "Hey, Bodie," his name is Bodie Lutz.
Yeah.
His mom is Amy Nickerson, who I mentioned a long
Oh
time
yeah.
ago, right?
Yeah.
But I say, "Were you going for it today? Because tomorrow you got a heavy load and you don't think you'll be able to get." He goes, "No, I ran easy today." I was like, "Oh, geez, I didn't seem easy." Anyway, the next day he runs 150, negative split, 56, 54. A few weeks later, goes to the was it Nike Outdoors?
So yeah, I also
Or
want to
Brooks
mention too,
PR.
at the 4x4, he did some crazy
So he
split
goes
too.
45-8.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I'm being a track nerd, I'm going to split that kid, right? So
yeah.
I split him, and all the people sitting around go, "What do you run? What do you run?" I go, "Well, I must have screwed it up." And they go, "What do you mean?" I go, "There's no he ran what I got on my watch, right?" And then they put it up on the board, and it says 45-77 or something, and I go, "That's what I had, 45-83 or whatever, right?"
Yeah.
And but then he goes and runs against Lutkin House at
Yes.
the
I
Nike
think he
Outdoors, I
finished
think it
second.
was.
He
It
might
goes
have.
147 something.
Yeah, he was super excited. I was in the
He
front row, and I said, "Is that?" And I asked him if that was the Oregon State record, and he said yes, but it's not. It's the second fastest time, but it's still.
Elijah ran 147 something his
Yeah,
junior year at the
I think
junior
he came really
nationals.
close, but he definitely got the Marshfield record.
But you know, he had committed to go to Western Oregon, and then
Yeah.
Sadford coach, oh, what's his name there at Western? Really good guy. Went to Central Lynn High School. Zach Holloway. Sad for Coach Holloway, but he decommitted and is now going to go to Oregon. But
Yeah, my wife was taking pictures on the other side of the track with the Western Oregon athletes, and they were super stoked.
yeah,
He just ran them into an Oregon scholarship there.
yeah.
Well, Coach, this was fantastic. I really enjoyed this, and I think for me, being in Oregon for over 30 years now, many of these athletes I got to see, and if I didn't get to see Steve Prefontaine, I talked to parents on my cross country team who lived in the dorms and looked out the window and watched him race, or coaches. Like you talked about, like Dave Robbins and those coaches that went to meets and remember him running and stuff like that. So I really appreciate you coming on. This has been super fun.
Yeah.
Good luck with the Mavericks this fall. I know your season opens on Monday, so good luck.
Yeah, well, we've been going since June 16th. So
do it.
Yeah, we decided this year we'd start earlier, and if nobody showed up, well, I'll go for a run myself. So no,
Okay.
we're having fun. I think the kids are we definitely have more kids that seem like they're understanding what we're trying to accomplish, and I got a couple. I got a couple kids that are running at a really high level, and that's fun too. But yeah, I love this. The sport's fun. Talking about it, being a part of it. I've been, you and I both been lucky to be a part of this sport for so long. At whatever, as athletes, as coaches, spectators, some kind of media, whatever you want to call it. It's super fun. So thanks for letting me, go off on my with my stories. Appreciate it.
All
So,
right. Thanks, Dave.
all
See you
right,
next
take care,
time.
kid.
Bye-bye. Well, I want to thank Dave Frank for coming on and being our guest and trying to figure out who made the Mount Hood of distance runners from Oregon high schools. And that was super fun. And just, love talking about all those athletes and then whether, the high schools they came from have an importance in the Oregon high school history. If you enjoyed this one and you're a fan of just cross country and track, particularly high school cross country and track, I would encourage you to go to our YouTube channel and also watch what we did with California with Coach Albert Kawana. And then also we did one with Keenan Gray of Dicestat for Washington. And so you can watch those also. You can listen to them on Spotify and Apple Podcasts too. If you're going on a nice walk or run, as we have spent the last 3 weeks covering the outstanding athletes that have run on the West Coast. And so now that ends our series for the summer, and now we look forward to cross country season. Here we go. Can't wait. I got my camera ready to go, and we'll be out at meets. I'll put something up on Instagram that shows you my schedule where I will be. I have to order more stickers. I went to Prefontaine and handed out a bunch of stickers, and so I'm running low. So look for me out on the courses this fall, and I'm getting excited about cross country. Until next time, remember that West Coast is the best coast. See you next time.